Just wanted to start and thank you to everyone who's here right now. It's just it's just something kind of amazing when we're able to gather in a way. And I know satsang has a tendency to be a little heady sometimes. So I just wanted to invite everyone to step into heart space if that works for you. We don't often talk about devotional path here, but there's something really remarkable about this wild heart that we seem to all share, this vibrant innocence there. And it seems to guide us in a really powerful way. Adyashanti says that you open up and you wake up in the head, and then you wake up in the heart, and then you wake up in the gut. It's not always that way for everyone, although just for this satsang today, I wanted to invite everyone to step into that space. See if you can allow yourself to drop into that sense of compassion, that sense of wild abandon that we call the heart, that sense of love that is unpredictable, that has that really paradoxical feeling of something longing and ecstatic euphoria. Just see if you can allow yourself to settle into that space. See if you can allow your mind to allay slightly and just feel into the heart, feel into that sense of devotion, the devotion of life, the devotion of compassion, that devotion of love. It's a remarkable experience. And while it can be rather human, and oftentimes in non-duality where we speak to no time, no self, these things, it has been said that one must know themselves before they forget themselves. This is a very human experience. This is a very human path. And to be really honest, the experience here is much like falling in love with every human being that's interacted with. It just, it's like an unavoidable feeling of just pure connection and just that wild, unpredictable heart there. So allow yourselves to be human. It will help you prevent any sense of bypassing as you go. Allow yourselves to experience all of the things in totality in an immediate and spontaneous way. And you might start to find that at the very core of every experience is this essence, this sensing that seems to compose all things. It's mysterious, it's unbound, it's innocent. It's like a small child kind of saying, "Come play with me." We contain all of that here now in this experience. Maybe just see if you can come in contact with that. Maybe you can come in contact with the young girl that you left behind long ago, or at least you think you did, or the young boy that you thought you've grown beyond. Innocence seems to be a cornerstone of this awakening, of this path. And there is a beautiful heart at the core of that. If you can feel it now, you can feel how good that feels. Or at least the paradox of there is no distinct sensation that can be labeled. It's something of longing and something of passion and compassion, but it's quite alive. There's no way around that. And you may often hear in this space that let life be the pointer. Well, just for today, let's just kind of play with the context of let the heart be the pointer. One of the most remarkable koans I've ever encountered is simply, what is love? It cannot be known, but in this very instant, it can be experienced and expressed. That that's remarkable. It has an ever-changing quality to it. It can't be predicted or anticipated. But that's the good stuff right there. That's where you start to experience the pointing of there is no one else. We all overlap in that. Truest nature is what combines us as something singular, the singularity, so to speak. And that fractal of experience seems to perpetuate itself everywhere in all things. So, wanted to remind everyone, thank you so much for being here. There is a very deep sense of love and compassion for everyone here. Everyone anyway, really, but it it's a very shared space. And while we don't often push toward the sacred, it does have that tone, the sacred tone, just being here like this, vulnerable and open and honest. So thank you for being here. Alma, thank you for being here. It's so good to have you here. You look all sparkly and bright today. Okay. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask to start? There's one. All right, go for it, Sam.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay. My question is regarding a sort of a day-to-day experience that I've been having for, let's say, 2 months or so, where on one hand, it seems to be like I don't know, like everything like sounds and visual field and like especially experiences talking to other people, it seems like there's no real separation like there used to be before. Like it's sometimes it gets a point to where it might be confusing for me too. It's like I'm catching energy from other people, and sometimes like suddenly maybe I'm very happy and suddenly I'm very sad just because the person in front of me feels sad and I'm catching on that, and it feels like I am actually that person being sad at the same time. And it's all clarifying, but there's one thing that it's sort of annoying in a way, which is like I still seek validation from people, from I don't know, from potential clients that I would acquire in my company, and maybe girls too, and maybe I don't know, even friends or family members. So it's like I'm at a spot where, yeah, on one hand, there is now, it seems like there's no separation because, like, yeah, I feel like me, like everywhere I look, or yeah, I don't know if that's the words that would do for it, but like that's the only thing that comes now. And sounds as well, like especially meditating, like I feel like, yeah, I completely the sound, but it's different thing with emotions. Like I feel way more separate. It's like maybe when I'm meditating and I'm very, very still, and I get into dark places, the sensations in the body, it feels like it's just one thing that's just moving, and yeah, it's not like I'm thinking about the emotion. I'm just fully being that sensation in that moment, but it doesn't happen. Like, for example, like in my day-to-day basis, I'm still getting more triggered that I thought I would be getting when these other things would be in my experience, like the visual field or the sound thing. So I'm just asking what kind of, I don't know, practice I could do with that, or just maybe noticing that and just be with the sensations. I've heard that many times and I'm already doing that, but I don't know if I'm quote unquote, I mean, doing something wrong or I'm deviating from, I don't know. I don't know if that's a question, but like, if I had to say something, that would be it.
Anything come
Thank
up, Alma?
Yeah, my first inclination is to challenge your perception of this as a problem. You're posing it as this problem or something that you just said might have gone wrong or that you're doing wrong. It's not that way at all. I think it's a good sign that you have the honesty to become aware of that mechanism and acknowledge it for yourself. And I don't think that I don't know if that will ever just stop happening, the seeking validation piece of it, because you said that that was a problem. You said that the first part about feeling other people's emotions, you've kind of accepted already.
you.
So am I on track so far with what I've said?
Yeah. Sure.
So instead of viewing it as a problem, I would suggest viewing it as an opportunity, because truly, I think that's what it is. So if you view it with fascination, it's an opportunity to explore that mechanism in real time. And it's not just an attitude of like, let me feel the sensations and wait till this goes away so that I can be at peace again. It's more of like, there is something unknown to me about this mechanism experientially that I want to find out. So if you approach it that way, it could become more intriguing and mysterious, um, and not something like that's pathologized and should be gotten rid of. Because as Josh said at the beginning of like the whole introduction, he invited everyone to be human. And in my experience, it's what you described is just like the definition of being human and being social, um, social creatures. We're just like wired to seek validation. Um, that's what
So
I
are you
have.
sort of saying that did I interrupt you or anything? But
No,
anyway,
no.
okay. So are you like trying to say, or maybe I'm getting this is what I'm getting, like me trying to or framing it as a problem is what creating more separation. Okay, okay. Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
certainly a thing that I noticed that I'm doing. Now that you mentioned that,
yeah.
I'm definitely doing that. So, yeah, yeah.
What if it's not? What if it's like just part of life? And as you've noticed, this only happens in certain settings, in certain circumstances. It's not this ongoing experience of life. There are times when that turns off,
Mm,
but you kind of don't control when it turns on because you could be put in unexpected circumstances that bring that out. So it
mhm.
doesn't help to believe that it's like there's a finality to that, that you will never experience that reaction because it is a reaction of seeking and it has a feel to it that is absolutely uncomfortable. I feel I know exactly what you're talking about. I experienced that. But there if you remove the layer of making it a problem, it could be more fluid, more direct experience of that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's good. The the path becomes a little bit more subtle as we go. Ultimately, you'll start to see that something is wanting to form distinctions and separations in experience. And that's basically what Alma is pointing to here too, is anytime we have a problem, that's definitely the realm of distinction. It's one of the primary ways the mind likes to create a distinction. It's
Mm,
also usually paired with some sense of shame there, which you might be able to
Mm,
perceive, which is some kind of judgment of doing
yeah.
something wrong. I am wrong. I do what's wrong. I create problems. Something's wrong with me. Something like this. And so Very, very much like Alma's pointing there. It's about immersing yourself in the experience as a human, as a human being. What is wrong with the experience of seeking validation? And sometimes what starts to happen is it's interesting. We immerse and we essentially merge with that experience, and the distinction ceases. And when the distinction starts to cease, so does the compensating behavior.
Mm.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So
That, yeah.
the
Sorry.
scalpel strikes again. We call Alma the Hello Kitty scalpel.
Well, also people around you that you describe that you're like merging with them, they're probably all seeking validation too in their brain, right? Like their nervous system is doing that. And so you might be mirroring that as well. So when you start to like merge even more, you'll see it's not me seeking validation, them seeking validation. It's the experience of seeking validation. And how could that be just a fascinating experience, including the pain of it, right? Because there's something about it, if you really, really start to investigate it, that where it's painful is that you don't get what you want, really. Or even if you do get some semblance of it, it's like a vicious cycle that just doesn't stop and feels very unsatisfying. But what if you could explore that, like if it were a game, like if you knew that, like watching something seek this unattainable thing, and asking that thing, like, why are you seeking it? Where is the sense of lack? It could take you even further. Where is the sense of lack? And can I rest in that sense of lack? And maybe the seeking energy calms down a little bit, and then maybe it starts up again, and then you ask yourself, where do I feel lack? Where am I lacking? And again, without making any of this wrong.
When you guys talk about like asking, yeah, sort of like where this is coming from, you just said, or something like that, or where am I feeling lacking? Are you, do you mean like also getting into the story? Because that's one of the things that I didn't do at the beginning, and so after the awakening and stuff, and at the beginning of shadow work, I was like not paying attention at all at the story. So I was just basically trying to feel full raw sensations, but for whatever reason, it feels relevant to maybe now pay some attention to what the story is saying to figure out where is this still sense of very settled self that's still
Yeah.
believing the same story that uses as a reason to frame it as a problem or to still seek validation. I don't know. It's what I feel from what you're saying, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I trust that feeling in you, and absolutely, like it's case by case. Sometimes the thing with stories is that if you're believing it, then it's going to be obscured to you, and in that case, you do have to see what the story is in order to bring it to the light, so that you can then see it as a story and stop believing it. But it's not about elaborating the story and like getting all caught up in it. It's more about seeing that there's actually a story there while you're telling yourself that there's not. Does that make
Exactly.
sense? So
Yeah.
it's about seeing clearly what is and what isn't there. Sensation will likely always be there, so it's a safe bet to go towards the sensation. But sometimes the stories could be like obscuring layers, and if we refuse to see it, then it's gonna be operating there somewhere,
Oh,
and we're gonna and it's gonna like uh, compartmentalize certain feelings that then we won't be able to feel.
that's so perfect too, Sam, because exactly what Alma said, the story belongs. And the way to know that the story belongs is because it's here. It's kind of like a portal of experience. And exactly what she pointed to there is we don't feed it more attention. We don't add more to the story. We don't use it to reify a belief. But what we do is once we start to entertain the story, it might actually give us access to something that was otherwise repressed. And you can feel that. And
Yeah.
so the story itself is not a problem. And I know a lot of spiritual pointings will say, don't entertain story, but This is not taking a stance. There is no sacred cow. Thou shalt have no false idols above me. It's actually a pointing to say, do not take a stance, do not make a rule of thumb. The way Alma said case by case, that's absolutely it. It's immediacy. And if the story is arising, it must be engaged with to some degree, but you don't have to feed it any more attention. It's being actually, something's being revealed to you. It's telling on itself.
Okay. Yeah. Makes total sense to me, actually, because the way that I perceive the story is not like I used to before. Like I will get engaged in the story, but now it's more like I can see the dialogue coming from whatever it comes, and sometimes it feels like it's charged emotionally, and that's what I feel like I want to investigate. That like just let the story tell itself and hear what it says, and then just fully feel it. It's where I'm.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we dig into that story, it breaks us apart, and that's what we're up to here, breaking all these things apart. Sometimes we get shattered in the midst of that story. Once you get a beat on what seems to be underpinning that story, that feeling, that's when you move all attention there. And that will prevent you from inadvertently reifying the story. It's a little tricky, of course, but you'll figure this out. You have the intuition for this. You just must be willing to engage and play. And anything that you're attempting to move away from, it's baiting you into forcing a distinction once again. And that's the name of the game. For obscuration, for any sort of concealing, it wants you to force a distinction and move away from something. Thoughts will even use thoughts so that you resist thoughts. You see? It'll bait you, and they will use themselves to bait you into resisting something.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you very much, both.
Nice to
Thank you
see
very
you.
much.
Okay, the next person, it says, I think it's MX Crow.
Hi, Al. Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Um, I'm going to ask the question that I wrote down, even though it seems a tiny bit irrelevant in the context that we've already established here. Can the path be walked with less pain and less struggle? Is there a way to make the path more smooth, more comfortable, or is the discomfort that often accompanies this process just part and parcel of the process?
The suffering is the path. Maybe Alma will expound.
That was a very short and direct answer. It caught me off guard, what you just said. Like the suffering is a path. Um, I mean, I just feel empathy because I've had that same longing so many times. Also, you're not really in control of the path, so the frame from which you could make it more smooth is, you could explore that. Like, I don't know, could you make it more smooth? Maybe there's a way. Maybe there's some creative solution to this question that I don't know. Um, I don't think it's an invalid question. But what does that mean exactly? Like, how do you experience suffering?
Well, what comes to mind, just as this now is on the table, is there's a lot of people around uh, self-development or awakening or spiritual path who would regard, for instance, psychedelic assisted therapy as being a path, as a way, a methodology to ease the struggle. But that, in a way, that seems sort of diametrically opposed to what I'm experiencing in the present, which is engaging with something that's unwanted, uncomfortable, and then utilizing that kind of as leverage for
Yeah.
for
That sounds
progress.
right.
So they,
Sorry.
that's kind of the dichotomy that sort of shows up for me. You know, you can see a lot of people talking about ketamine therapy for reduction of anxiety, for example, and it's very effective, and a lot of people are excited about it. So, uh, is that an option, or is that a, you know?
Absolutely. It's absolutely an option. Any of those, any like tool, modality, or resource that you can access and you feel drawn to, that's available for working through things, um, why not? Why not try it? But it's not for everyone, and I think you really have to feel into, does it speak to you with intuition? Like, do you think that in your case, a modality of therapy, or maybe like even some way, what was coming up for me was some way that you could take care of yourself in your day to day, that could be like more gentle, more loving, um, to help ease the struggle that comes up, because that struggle will come up and it has to be used as a leverage, as you said. So even if you do a psychedelic assisted therapy, you're still gonna be faced with all of this sense of struggle and all of these uncomfortable densities. um it's just that it might be maybe revealed at a different rate, I would say. If you, or also, if you work therapeutically with another person, they might be able to hold some of that weight with you, and that could be helpful at the right time. But I also, I think these things are seasonal. Like at certain times that could be very, very relevant and appropriate, and at other times you really have to do it on your own, without assistance. So I mean, and then also there are so many options of things you could do, um, from like getting more sleep to doing psychedelic assisted therapy. So I don't know. I think it's a very personal question that you can explore for yourself.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would. Oh, go ahead.
my sense right now is that it's sort of a choice between engaging with this and making, as Josh says, kind of cutting the rubber bands off the golf ball, or
Mm.
or finding ways to, like you said, maybe slow the rate. Sometimes the rate of change is feels overwhelming,
Yeah.
and then other times, a little bit, a little bite at a time, and I don't have any control over that. It just kind of drags me to the threshold as it will. So I don't, yeah. Um,
Yeah, like
my
buffer.
sense
It
right
sounds like
now
you
is
want to
it's do or
buffer.
die. I don't, not I'm not actually looking at other modalities, because I think all the other modalities just fit in one category, and then the other categories go through this door.
Mm. So in that case, sometimes we could use, modalities or things as distractions because we're
Yeah,
seeking to
that's
end our
awesome.
pain. And if that's the case, then yes, just like view this question that you just had as just another, fleeting, like another temptation to get off the path. Um, yeah,
Ultimately,
if you're there.
yeah, exactly. Ultimately, it's the desire for escape or relief that's driving the suffering. And of course, there's so much empathy that comes out because this is how we are. We don't want to feel this experience that feels miserable. Um, but whatever that particular desire is also somehow keeping you away from the entire engagement of this. And so, just kind of like what Alma said, sometimes we have to explore every possible option. That's fine too. That's not There's nothing wrong. I mean, the path is how it goes. So if that is calling to you, you have full support for that. Ultimately, though, it will probably be very much like this anyway. It just seems to be that way. It arises how it arises.
Yeah, I've always said to other people in the past that you can, take a benzodiazepine, you can do this, that, or the other thing, but you're just delaying the inevitable. And now I having to sort of face my own advice in that
Right.
regard.
And yet sometimes it's appropriate to take a benzodiazepine if you have an important event where you need to be composed for, right? And you take it for that circumstance, you get through what you need to do, and then you're back and you're faced with all the same sensations that you had before, right? So it's really it's really about what place are you in, what circumstances are you in. And
Yeah.
you this isn't like black and white thinking doesn't, as we've been seeing like throughout this conversation, doesn't really help. It's about developing the intuition to really like gauge what is appropriate at this stage where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good news is you're not going to miss out on anything. And I definitely, just kind of like what Alma was saying, I definitely encourage breaks, whatever that looks like, that's okay. Um, that way we don't actually force ourselves too hard into an experience that might create a dorsal vagal shutdown. But ultimately, it's just gonna be waiting regardless. So, like I said, if you feel the desire for exploration, yes. Um, if you have an intuitive knowing otherwise, follow that. I will say you're
Yeah.
doing fantastic. You're doing great. I mean, you're here. The curiosity, the courage, all those pieces are actually there. All the pieces of authenticity that seem to be necessary for this discovery of truest nature. So, um, I know it's not always fun, but maybe you can also open up a little bit and see where the lightness is in this experience, because there is lightness. The mind is tricky. It tends to only be fixated on where there's a problem. We usually don't remember that which is effortless, but we tend to remember where there's resistances. What in your experience regularly now is absolutely effortless? Can you bring attention to that as well? And I think what you'll find is there's a lot of effortlessness here. Only the mind can fixate on where there's a problem or struggle or suffering, but there is a lot of effortlessness here. And if you can start to sense that, you might start to take the edge off of these other experiences just a little bit. We're just kind of sanding the edges until we realize there are no edges, you see? But you are doing fantastic. And I know it hasn't always been fun, but even in our conversations, you have mentioned some sense of okayness in your experience of diving in. Let that be your guide, my friend.
Yeah, since it comes and goes by the grace of God.
Yeah.
When I'm not in it, I'm super brave. Yeah, bring it on. And it's all about the spiritual path, and these are simply indicators of growth and shedding. And there's a positive way to contextualize it because it's not here all the time. And then when it either creeps up and just kind of stays for a long time or just comes suddenly, then I'm not quite as brave. And I'm like, if this cup could be taken from my lips, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not to equate my experience with anyone else's, but
I mean, it's just so human right there. Of course, it's that way. It's okay to have that experience as well. Can you be okay having that experience as well? Do you need another judgment on top of that? There's nothing wrong here.
yeah, well, thanks. I mean, my intuition led me to you and to this group, and I'm happy to be engaged in the process. I truly am. I had a huge experience of gratitude around even the depths of the unwanted experience.
There you go.
So I do I do feel that this is where I belong. This is where I am. There's no question about that. I'm actually not looking for escape. I wrote this question down and I went with it anyway. I've tried a lot of other modalities, maybe for many years. Hasn't been like this for many years. This came up for me quite quickly after 25 years of meditating, but the pressure, the unwanted state came up relatively quickly. So no, I'm where I belong, and I'm super grateful for you guys and your guidance and being around you.
I actually hear so much insight in that sharing right there. You know the taste of the strawberry. It's in essence, though, we can never really pinpoint it. It's not like we can focus on this. It's not quite like that. It tends to live in the periphery. And what you just demonstrated through some of your sharing is you know the taste of the strawberry. The gratitude is that.
Mhm.
Gratitude is just feeling. It always arises with feeling and feeling anything, any quality of anything. Gratitude. Let that be your guide too. And of course, you're welcome here, my friend. Of course.
Thank you.
So nice to see you, man.
Good to see you and all the group.
Hmm. All right. Let's go to Nolan.
Hey Josh.
Hey.
Hey Alma and everybody here. Good to see everybody. Good to be here. Um, I figured I would just ask a question, I guess, that I had just been pondering the past couple days, um, that I'm sure other people may think or feel as well. But I think all of us are here because we're seekers, right? And we're all on this awakening path or the path to awakening. Even if it's a pathless path, it still feels like a path, right? And sometimes if you're like me, you probably listen to different people that are pointing and talking and watching YouTube videos. And some of it can be contradictory. And so it kind of creates some confusion in me. And I think recently the confusion I've been feeling is around the idea of, well, I'll say like I've heard two different things. And so one thing is, and it's kind of weird because it's like, you're seeking awakening, but then some people will tell you that that energy of the seeker is just basically the problem, right? That's aspects of the personal self. And that seeker, that energy often can keep you tethered to not awakening, right? To not awaken. And so I hear teachings like that, but then I'll hear other teachings. Like recently, I heard one that said basically, in order to achieve awakening, you have to want it like your hair is on fire. Now, that doesn't work for us, but the analogy does. Yeah, I know. But like somebody with their hair on fire wants water. Like that's how bad you want it, and then be able to commit your life to it and things of that nature. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't really know what to do. I feel like I'm caught in between, like what kind of effort am I giving, or how much effort should I be giving, or what kind of effort am I supposed to be giving, and how much of my time, and like, oh, am I seeking? Is this the seeker energy? Is this the same seeker who seeks validation and seeks love and seeks relationships? Am I just feeding that energy? Am I like actually doing, I don't want to say damage, but am I making myself go backwards by consistently using this effort? Or is that a good thing? Like, do I really need to want this like my hair is on fire? So I guess that's just my question, is the contradictory messages there. Maybe I'm confused. What are your thoughts on that?
Whenever confronted with contradiction, I mean, this part is hard, but this path is filled to the brim with contradictions because it seems like every layer of this identity that we seem to penetrate, it almost wants to pull 180 degrees in contradiction. It can look like boundaries. We maybe don't know how to establish boundaries in relationships as we grow. We have a lot of chaos in relationships. We learn how to establish boundaries. We start penetrating the identity. We need less boundaries or no boundary in certain circumstances, and then we need boundaries again. It tends to oscillate like this sometimes. So this is the value of intuition for sure, just resonance. And it's always going to be a felt experience. You just know if you allow yourself to just resort to the resonant intelligence of what's felt. It is, after all, your highest form of intelligence is sensing and feeling. When it comes to wanting this, like your hair is on fire, that is such a tricky pointing. It is true to some degree, but it also can drive this underlying need to seek or find or achieve or something like that. So, what I usually like to do is translate that a tiny bit. Instead of wanting this more than anything, like your hair is on fire, take this subtext or this context a little bit. You have to be absolutely willing to engage with everything and anything, full engagement. It's the willingness itself. And we can even put it this way: you have to be completely willing and absolutely fully immersed in this fascination, the willingness to be surprised in everything. And in that kind of exploration, you will begin to find where certainties and conclusions are lurking. And that's where you will find beliefs. And that's where you will find identity. Be willing to be blown away all the time in every fractal of immediate experience. That is the wanting this like your hair is on fire. That is the most pure pointing of that. It's a willingness to be blown away, surprised, fascinated, curious. Also, regular, always engaged. That's kind of like that piece too. It's just the engagement itself of life. It's not the wanting of something over here or the wanting to discover what awakening is. It's just right here, right now, the willingness to be completely immersed, whatever it looks like, whatever quality seems to be presenting itself. And if you have that willingness to engage in such a way, you will see where something wants to turn you away with a vengeance. And when you see that, it might become really curious, like, what's going on here? Why does it want to pull me away from this so much? That curiosity, my friend, will be your best friend after all.
Okay.
Alma, do you have anything, Alma?
I feel a lot of confusion and doubt, and I would encourage you to take a break from whatever engagement with the content of awakening, like the actual content, not engagement with life, as Josh was saying, but the topic. I might take a step back and just simmer in the confusion and allow yourself to not really know what you want or how badly you want it. Because what I was reflecting on wanting it like your hair is on fire. And I can relate to that. But that was such a, in me, that uh, force is something that I stumbled upon. It's not something that I manufactured. So when I hear the pointer, you have to want it like your hair is on fire, I could see how I would feel a lot of frustration and maybe self-judgment or maybe like pressure to like, I have to somehow fit myself into that mold. And it's actually impossible to like, I think based on my experience, just sitting with this idea of wanting something, like I don't think I can make myself want something. I think I could only be honest with myself about what is it that I want and see that and embrace it. And what is it that I want, maybe more than other things that I want. But that's like a self inventory, like um and then authenticity is where you actually allow yourself to want what you want and put channel your energy towards that accordingly. So I don't think you have to want something like your hair is on fire. You just have to be honest with yourself about what is it that you want and how much do you want it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think wanting is the issue because I definitely find myself in that. I don't know if I would say like my hair is on fire for sure, but because I still have other things in my life that are also as important. But I have definitely made this a priority in my life and not for any other reason, just because I choose to. But I think, like you said earlier, that there is confusion that sometimes I'll pump the brakes on that because I feel like I'm supposed to. Like, oh, wait, am I just seeking now? Is this too much? And so that I think that's where the confusion is. Like, very much, I've heard the analogy of like driving with your foot on the pedal, or on the brake. driving with your foot on the brake. That's basically what this feels like. Because I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too much? Yeah, and it definitely comes into some confusion. But there definitely is a heart-centered wanting to awaken, and it
Oh,
definitely is a priority in my life. I will say that.
okay. It's so good because what we're really talking about when we're talking about the heart is we're talking about full commitment, but it's not full commitment to a potential future event. It's
Mm,
full commitment to this. That's all love is. That's all the heart is. Full commitment with no hesitation in that experience. Now, 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 like that. That's it. You actually self-pointed so clearly right there. It's a commitment to this, not a commitment to that. There is no that.
mm.
This. There is no pumping the brakes when you're fully committed to this. It's impossible. That's it. It's commitment. That's love. That's compassion. That's heart right there. Because if we're committed to heart, it's going to be a wild ride. That's life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, like this that you're going through is par for the course in that sense.
Great.
It is like it's doubt and fear. There's fear under doubt. So you could explore that.
Also, what does doubt want?
Disillusionment.
Doubt wants to control. That's all it wants to
Mm.
do. It wants to control what the experience is right here. And of course, it points to fear, just like Alma said.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
like
a lot of
the
it,
thoughts. Sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
I think a lot of that too is mind, it's my own mind and my own thoughts, basically pumping the brakes, while my heart is kind of like go, my mind is telling me to
Yeah.
stop. So I think a lot of that is happening too.
Whatever it is that you engage with, whatever it is, it's just full commitment. Because that's where you will start to see cracks. That's where you will start to perceive this gap that we speak to, is in that full commitment. There's really no wrong move. You cannot step outside of the universe. You can't screw this up. But in the midst of a full commitment, you're not playing the limbo game, which is what tends to kick our butts a lot in this. So whatever it is, you're just fully committed to it, whatever it is.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
You will feel what that full commitment is like. It's only known in that.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't let the thoughts distract you and lean into the heart instead. Because I can sense that there are a lot of thoughts at times like that say very convincing things about this and start like an inner dialogue, like an inner argument. And it's like pulls you this way, pulls you that way. Like that's kind of like surface noise. Like it's not you're operating at such a deeper level that you are aware of and you are in tune with. But those are just like ripples here. It's not it's not where you are and it's not where you are um investigating. So don't let that distract you.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for your insight.
Nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
You too.
All right. I see a question in the chat. I think we'll just go to that. Somebody asked, how do you allow yourself to be felt? You know what I love about that question is it's like it's a koan. How do I allow myself to be felt? It's perfect. By itself, the question is the answer. Do you want to expound at all, Alma?
No, I like the simplicity of that.
It kind of does speak for itself. I love that question. Should can I borrow that for koan cards? It's a good one. Um, yeah, I know there's not a lot of uh, information that comes with the answer to that, but I would just ask, how do I allow myself to be felt and rest in that? That's a good
It's such
inquiry.
an innocent question.
It's so good. It's good by itself. Oof. Juicy. All right, let's go to Paul.
Good day, Josh. Elmer, hi everyone.
Hello.
Just want to acknowledge just the you spoke of heart, it's open today. I feel you from the get-go. So
Hmm.
um having been on the journey for a little while with yourself, just to feel and to see just another dimension. It's quite reassuring in a way. The heart doesn't need to be put in second place. And so a lot is unfolding around intuition at the moment, and that's what I generally default to, when I'm being creative or doing something fun. But when I'm in a classroom, things are really looking messy. I generally go into my head. So it's been really nice to sort of be in difficult places, and the intuition is there too. And what it's bringing is this sense of, I mean, the word is abundance, but there's no, I sort of feel emotion around it now because generally I hadn't gone with that. So I'm just acknowledging the fact that as I do give over to that, I'm okay. And that split between wanting to be in the safe spiritual space and be out of the messy world, that split doesn't exist for intuition.
Hmm.
So that's just, it's very good to know, that that solution is very much in the moment. And no matter how crazy that moment looks, the solution is there.
Yeah, it's kind of like this remarkable experience of there's a solution and it's already done. That's how
Mhm.
that's that like remarkable heart-driven experience. It's like it's already showing, it's already revealed. You're feeling it, you're immersed in it. What would it be like to let that completely be your truest nature? We don't have to trust it, but it does seem like we play this game of trust along the way a little bit, because the mind wants to come in and it wants to create a decision or some kind of distinction with that. But ultimately, you don't even need to trust it because it already is. That's the beautiful part here. Like it's already complete. Nothing to do with it. it it
Mhm.
speaks for itself. It defines itself. Is there, is there anything more poetic than that? Is there anything more romantic?
Mhm.
That's heart. And you do know this. Of course you do. This has been your voice from the dawn of time, we could say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I created this identity, to as though I needed to stand out and make a stand. You know, and that doesn't need any attention. It's just sort of crazy that what I thought was a value is there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no energy needed to in that, that. So where I live is together with you guys, not this individual on a path.
I love it. I love it. The one of the greatest discoveries in this experience was that the heart cannot be broken. And that just is like suddenly this vulnerability. This is turn the other cheek pointing. That's really what they're saying. The heart cannot be broken. That just makes us want to break and cry and transform. And I'm glad you're here for it. It's gorgeous.
I think my heart, oh no, I'll let my heart to sort of sink in with them, but thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. Nice to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Hmm. I love you, man.
Mhm.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah. So
Thanks. Deepak.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Josh.
Hey.
It's been a while. Oh man, I was gonna do like a cool like hi Josh, it's been a while, but like the last chat yeah. It's just the words I was gonna use. Like I feel like I'm a cracked egg that's trying to uncrack myself, you know. I don't know, it's so weird, man. Hi almost all. I don't think we've met. Yeah, I don't know. It's just been so weird recently. Um it's like um I've been one thing that I've been oriented towards is like spontaneity or like trying to be authentic and stuff. And I just see that like when I stay authentic, um, there's another part of me that just grabs me sometimes. And it's like I'm starting a sentence that I don't know what the end of it is, but then all of a sudden the sentence just disappears from me. Um, if that sort of makes sense. Um, there's also like it goes the same with some emotions as well. So like recently, like I just felt there's just a deep sense of like sadness for everything that's almost feels impersonal. But then I make it personal. Or there's a story that comes up along the way, and then it like takes me away from it. It sort of hijacks it. And it feels like I'm just discarding things over and over and over again to like get to the part before that is before the narrative, I guess. Um, yeah, I yeah, I just honestly, I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to like reflect what was happening. Um, but I'm yeah, like my intuitively like I feel like it's more so continuing to discard and seeing better. But um yeah, I don't know.
So one thing that I notice is like I don't think like I have anything to add to what you're saying, but the way you're saying it, it's like you're unsure of whether you should even be saying it or not and kind of discarding it as you go. So I would like poke at that a little bit.
Mm.
I don't know if that resonates.
Sir, could you like clarify
Yeah,
what
like it sounds like you like everything you said is very clear, and there's this at the same time there's this underlying um sense of doubt about what you're
yeah.
saying.
Like I feel like I'm wrong all the time. Like I feel like I'm lying slightly.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I caught. That's what I caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost the same pointing for that we were kind of pointing for Nolan. Um, there's no harm in committing to a thread of experience. It doesn't have to be like a hard stop. I think you might find a subtle rejection or resistance in the midst of like that sense of not having a complete sentence or that sense of rejecting what's being said. And in that itself, there's something to be discovered. That's all. You don't have to
Yeah.
actually discard anything.
No, everything you're saying is super cool. Like I'm like following, I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. But then you like you don't fully own what you're saying. So it's like, I don't know. It's not the content, it's the way you said it. And you mentioned though authenticity. So when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, like maybe this is the opportunity to allow yourself to be authentic by trusting your insight, because what you're sharing is insight. It's discoveries that you have made in your own path, in your own investigation. And you can fully own that. It's not a right or wrong thing. And I think it's self-confirmed. Like you are the confirmation of the validity of that.
Yeah, there's something unique too about experiencing. I think I'm kind of getting a sense of what you're experiencing is just because you're speaking something doesn't mean you're necessarily proclaiming a broad truth. You're instead,
Yeah.
it's something immediate and does it matter either way if that's what's showing up? I mean, everything seems to be here and gone anyway. So might as well commit to that. Doesn't matter.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I think I have a tendency to like need to have the final truth or find the correct thing that captures everything.
It doesn't quite work that way.
Mm.
It's
It's
immediate.
subjective.
It smacks
Yeah,
you.
and it is, but you're also sharing things that are personal to you, what you're going through. That doesn't have to extrapolate to a broad truth.
Okay.
Maybe there
I
is no
see.
broad truth. Maybe it's only experience itself in the immediate way. Play that way for a little bit. And maybe just have a subtle question underneath. Does it matter either way? And then I think you'll be more likely to play. Because if there's a sense that you could be wrong, then you are wrong. That's what the experience will
Yeah,
force you into.
yeah. You feel wrong. And maybe a quicker approach there is to allow yourself to be wrong and still be.
Yes. Yes. What does that feel like? That's good. What's doesn't matter either way. You got to experience wrong for sure because it will eat itself. It is the Ouroboros. It consumes itself. Let wrong destroy wrongness. That's how it works.
Mm. Yeah, okay, yeah. That resonates with me. Yeah.
You do have a lot of really bright insight. Good enough in the moment. That's it. This is another kind of pointing to the contradictions along the path is the truth, whatever that seems to be. We can't really put our finger on it or grasp it or hold it, but whatever it seems to be is momentary, here and gone. So it can appear contradictory sometimes. So what? Enjoy that. That's part of the play. That's how the heart functions. That's that wild abandon of heart right there. I love the Alma's pointing though about be wrong. It's so good because it really doesn't exist. That's just a context. Your experience can never be wrong, ever. That's what's amazing about all this is whatever truth seems to be arises, and there's really no context of good or bad, right or wrong in that. It just is done. We can
Mm.
we can reframe it contextually. Is this wrong? Doesn't even make sense, right? So there's something giving you a sense that there's got to be a right and wrong experience. It's definitely worthy of exploring. I love it. I love it. Like I said, almost she's a scalpel, man. She got it. So good.
Thanks, Elbow.
You're welcome.
Hey man, nice to see you.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks,
been a while.
Josh.
Is that where I thought you were going to do some beatboxing to start out? Chicken, chicken.
Yeah, you know me, man. I beatbox before every one of my sessions, right?
Love it. All right. Thanks, man. Sarah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, hi. Hi, Josh. Hey, Alma. Um, let's see. I feel like everything has been covered. But so when I get to the wanting and like what you said, Alma, about what you wanting, what knowing, like acting on what you want is authentic. Like it just feels like, who am I to get what I want? Or it just feels dangerous. It just brings me straight up to fear and like, what will other people think? Or if I get what I want, I'm just gonna mess it up or lose it, or it's just all right here. But
Yeah,
it's
but
more like,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry to interject, but
yeah.
you're denying yourself the experience of wanting by focusing on the outcome. Embracing your wants doesn't mean that you will get what you want. It just means being honest. And it is very vulnerable and very scary. Why? Because you might not get it.
Probably never.
That's
Yeah, right.
that's the gamble. That's the gamble of potential future. But if you've ever heard me point to some people, their experience of joy is the shadow. There's a little bit of
Uh,
that going on here.
what do you, can you say, what do you mean?
The experience of wanting, there's actually nothing wrong with wanting. In fact, wanting is such an ecstatic experience because it is about being close, very close to something. It's like encompassing, it's like
Yeah.
enveloping. But if we are hinged on an outcome, that is where desire and suffering are kind of linked. So basically, with what Alma said there is you must come in contact with the wanting because the wanting is it's kind of orgasmic, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wanting is amazing, but
But
without the need for a completion.
I, okay, like come in contact with the wanting, how without getting what I want? Like the sensation?
What does it feel like to want?
Yeah. What does it feel like to want without getting what I want?
Oof,
What does it what does
jeez.
it feel like?
Hmm.
Can
I
I allow
mean,
myself to want? You have to allow yourself first because you're not out of fear. But can I allow myself to want without getting what I want?
But there is a fear of outcome here too. Fear of getting what you want is what I'm hearing a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's interesting too, because it's never about outcome. The outcome can never be determined by anything. It just is. It just arises. But what's it like to be close to that experience? Does it feel like fire? Does it feel like heat? I think a lot of people will discover in the experience of wanting a very sexual energy there. It's creative and just kind of like arising in that way.
yeah. And then like, and like we've maybe talked about, then it goes back up into fantasy or like, identifying that with a person, like longing for a person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to stay in the wanting without putting it
Yeah,
on
because the thing is,
somebody.
if you get what you want, then the fantasy is gonna die. So that's why you're also afraid of getting what you want because
Yeah,
it
that's
kills the whole illusion. Because the fantasy is an illusion. It's about chasing.
yeah. That
If
that's
you
that's
if
like
you get the real person, they're not the fantasy. So it's like that's what you're afraid of.
getting the real person.
Yeah, if it's a person or whatever the experience is, the way it looks in the fantasy, you won't ever get that, as you said. And the fantasy will kind of be dispelled when you realize that. And what's underneath this whole experience of wanting is actually complete emptiness. It's just a complete void. And it feels so intense to want. That's why we're encouraging you to not be afraid of it and to move towards it. But the more you merge with it and allow yourself to experience that, the more you see that there's nothing really to it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not like your existence doesn't depend upon it. Like it's not as compelling. It loses its compulsion. It's not as compelling when you fully like inhabit it.
Yeah, okay. And then just I think what's related to that, like what we've already been talking about, is the doubt. Like even if I do get what I want, then as soon as I get it, then I go back up into my head like, oh, I made the wrong choice. You know, like, oh, this isn't what I really wanted.
It's because whatever that mechanism is depending on some form of displacement. It wants to displace the experience to something out here or something else. But you must know that the wanting can only occur here. It has nothing to do with any of this, anyone else. And it's I what Alma is saying is absolutely true. Whatever fantasy is for us can become an addiction. It's an addictive
Yeah.
endeavor. And I think that's part of what's going on here too. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's just the nature of how these things work. Part of like being afraid of getting what you want is because now you can predict that you don't get what you want, and that fulfills the criteria of satisfaction. You could call it existential kink. It's basically
Mm.
the mind, if it knows what's going to happen, you get a little bit of dopamine by having that cycle complete. Oh, yeah, it hurts so good. It's one of these. Everybody has this, by the way. And so, what you're really, really at begging for at the core of your truest nature is the experience of joy, which exists only in the unknown. And to rest with wanting, it will be unknown, and you don't get the dopamine hit in that experience. So you may go through with something we call withdrawal. Things can start to get a little bit more challenging, but you will kind of move through that darker before dawn experience, and then it's just joy, that untapped, unbound experience of unknown joy, and it's just perpetually that. But if you know you're
Yeah.
going to fail and you get your failure, ooh, I got a little hit of dopamine because we know it. I predicted that. I was right. It's subtextual now, but it's there, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Nice to see you. All right, Lisa.
Yeah. Hey, Josh and Alma. Gosh, you guys, woo. Both of you just totally blown me away today. God, I love you guys so much. Shit.
Hit that heart.
I can't hardly contain it. It's like, woo.
Yeah, it's good.
So it's so, and it's really interesting. I was like, I didn't have a question, but I couldn't. I mean, it was like I gotta talk to these guys. I love them, and why would I let this opportunity go by to like converse directly with both of you? That I just, yeah, I mean, hell, of course you're me, you're the reflection of me, or whatever the hell all that shit is that you can go around in circles trying to figure out, and I don't care anymore. But yeah, being in contact with you in this way is beautiful. And I had something to say, but I've already forgotten what it was. I didn't really have a question. Other than I'm really grateful for the call to the heart. It's been a piece that's been part of something that felt like it needed to be called to. And no, not needed. Well, there was a want for it. There was a want for this love, but it's a want for an impersonal love. It's never been stuck, thank God, in a personal sense of needing, wanting love or giving love. It was more like knowing that it's just a really deep knowing that it's an impersonal love. It's an unconditional love. It's a love that doesn't have any words that really describe it. And you know it when it's there. And all I can say is it's just so right here with you guys, that I've both met both of you personally, and I am so grateful for that. And yeah, so blabber. I'm just blabbering and I love it. Thanks, you guys, for letting me go on and on.
Keep going.
Well, I'd rather hear what you have to say.
Yeah,
I'm not
I want to
giving
feel
you.
into what Alma has to say on this too, if anything comes up.
Oh,
I'm happy to connect, and it's sweet to hear that this space is having that impact.
Hmm.
it's really
It's just
Yeah.
The
what's
only
new.
the only
What's
subtlety.
the feeling? Having it present, there was this knowing that it was like felt like a piece that was missing for a while, which of course is silly because there's nothing missing. It's all always right here. And, but it wasn't being felt, I guess. And you can't make it happen.
Grace.
Yeah, exactly. It would come in little dribs and drabs. I always knew that I could trust the fact that it was available. But
Mm.
but it was like, yeah. So I used to meet with Josh kind of regularly, and I haven't seen him if you can believe it's been almost a year, Josh, since I had a meeting with you. And partly it was because the last instruction you gave me was for you right now, Lisa, which is something he can say to people, for you right now. Every time you have a thought, just go straight into your body. Yeah, you've heard him say that, Alma, I guess.
No, I found it funny how you impersonated him.
The best
Oh,
impression
good.
yet. It's just too much hair, you know?
Is it a good impression?
That was solid. You will be leading the next satsang, so thank you.
Anyway, so the instruction was for you right now, Lisa. Anytime you get a thought, just go straight to your body. Just go straight to your body. And I can't tell you how fucking hard that was to do it every time because thoughts are like, boom, boom, boom. But anyway, no. But I mean, it really wasn't that bad, but it was like, I can't go back. And then I saw Josh in Kentucky and I just kept hugging him every day and I couldn't talk to him because I knew I hadn't fulfilled my assignment at all.
Oh, if only it actually works that way.
Well, I know, but the thing was, it doesn't work like that, but anyway, in retrospect, I held it. It stayed with me and it was like that hot ball, just always right there waiting. And it slowly started to reconcile itself on its own, of course, because there wasn't anything I could do to make that happen. I could have a strong intention, whatever the hell that is. And anyway, so that was, but it has. And in the meantime, that love piece, which had been floating around as a real want, be able to tap into that unconditional love piece, it would give me little insights and little pieces of itself that would just be like, thank you. So anyway, but yeah, the thoughts have really settled down and I'm getting into such touch with my body that I wonder, to the point of so much contact with the body, I wonder how the instruction that Angelo sometimes gives, or some other teachers say, that at some point the sensations go too. I mean, is that possible?
I wouldn't think about that too much.
Okay, good. I won't then.
Here's the pointing. Whatever arises, become that.
Yeah,
I am that. Become it.
I can do that.
If
Yeah.
you're noticing a distinction between you and what's being experienced, what would getting closer, what would touching it be like? What would playing with the edges, what would finding the center be like? And it's a really intimate exploration. But when subject meets object, there is no
Yeah.
more subject, no more object. There is no more experience. There
Yeah.
is only emptiness. And
Yes.
that's kind of what that looks like. Um, I won't I won't give it away, but what is not emptiness? What is not empty? That's the exploration.
Yeah. I
That
get.
that wild untamed heart, that wild untamed love, Even though there are no containers, it does seem to encapsulate all experience. We could say the emotion of love encapsulates all emotions, but the experience of love encapsulates all experience. The totality of that and the seeming nothingness of emptiness, it's interesting because emptiness actually encapsulates nothing and everything simultaneously. It's so mysterious, we know it. We experience it, but we can't objectify it because it is everything. There's no distinction any longer. And if there's no distinction being made, where are you? Where is sensation? Is any of that there? Become it. Become it all. When you realize you are what you feel at its most intimate, then the dam breaks open and you realize you are experience itself. So whatever that hot ball is, you are that. If it feels like burning, because that's often how desire and wanting can feel, burn.
Yeah, I've been through that for sure. I had a burning in my chest for like 6 months. It
You
was
become it.
delight. It was
Yeah.
delicious. Yeah, I mean, because there was so much trust that even though it's painful, it's beautiful. I mean, there was just like it felt it was burning up. I was burning up, which is of course exactly what.
Keep going.
Keep burning.
Burn until there's no memory of burning.
Mm. Yeah.
This is the Buddha sitting at the base of the Bodhi tree. Mara comes and lights him on fire. Temptation, desire, these experiences, and he feels as if he's burning. In the story, he is literally on fire, and he does not move a muscle. His rate of breath does not change. He just burns into nirvana. Gate gate pada samgate bodhiswaha. So, if it's that intense, let it eat you. We know what it is to be the head of the serpent, of the Ouroboros. We believe we're consuming something else. You already know now, you have this, where you realize, holy shit, it's consuming itself. You know what it is to be the head, and now you become the tail. Become consumed.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that instruction. And Angelo often says, just let whatever it is overtake you. And that's often
This is where we become never not broken.
yeah.
Never not broken means never put together, no, no me, no sense of this, just experience itself. And that, I, there's no point in putting words to it, but that's clear seeing for sure. You are the arising.
Hell yeah. Strong.
Do you feel it? Oh man.
God, are you kidding me? I can hardly move.
Feel every sensation until maybe there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Just like that. And it's immediate. We cannot form conclusion here.
Mm.
I could make the pointing, every sensation is empty. That doesn't do it. We have to be engaged every single instant, no matter what, anyway. We have to essentially prove it through being immersed, through becoming. That, there's nothing like that. That's life. That's living all the way. I mean, in the human way, too. How can we not be completely living if we're just immersed in it? There's no standing back. There's no need to reflect. There's no need to judge or evaluate. We are it, and it's just, oh my God. What's the difference between that and just pure love? I mean, it's indecipherable.
Yeah.
And of course, you're made of that. But this is also the place where you realize there is no one else. Because every time we come into contact with what seems to be another human, we become them. Is there anything more intimate than that? And you're here. Might as well see what it's all about. Who knows?
Well, maybe I'll have a red beard next time I see you then.
Yes, and you will have a shaved head, and you will be running the show.
No, I just want to have black curly long hair like Alma.
Oh, she does have some nice locks, eh?
Beautiful curly hair. It's so wonderful to see you guys. I feel so full.
I'm so grateful for you being here, and your participation always blows something open here. So just thank you.
All right.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Yeah. See y'all.
All right, we're about to close it down, but since there's only one hand up, I'm just gonna finish it up. Is that okay with you, Alma? All right, I'm not sure if it's Rania. Please help me pronounce that correctly.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, there you
My video on. It's Rania.
Rania. I will
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Rania.
Okay, so I'll try and make it quick, but it's a heavy question. I'm like going, maybe I should just save it for some
No,
other time.
no hurry. No hurry. Just let it unfold. It's fine.
Okay, well, I I had a 5-MeO session with Chad Charles. I don't know if you know who Chad Charles is. He facilitated, you know who Dan Schmidt is with the Samadhi Center, the Awaken the World.
Mhm.
So I did a retreat, an about Iboga assisted with 5-MeO retreat there, and everything was great. There was a lot of, I was able to surrender during my 5-MeO right there, but
Hmm.
I had another session with him. I know it was intense. I had another session with him. It was life-changing. And this time I hit this fear barrier of a fear of surrendering to form. And there was a lot of shame that came out of that because what I saw was it's like almost brought me back to where consciousness had a choice, basically. And it wasn't almost like I was choosing this. And I know there was ego. I mean, in order for me to even think that way, it's the mind, right? So, but still, it revealed like this story, obviously, that's really deep inside me that I didn't realize that was there. And there was this, I came to a point where there was like, it's almost like consciousness or for eons has had this choice. And it's a story that, and I'm just telling you the story that I'm having a hard time getting rid of. But it has a choice of either surrender or suffering. You know what I mean? They either surrender or fear. And choosing fear, you're choosing suffering. And I was so scared to let the story surrender. And I chose fear. And in that fear, and this is to me myself, you know, it's like I knew I was in choosing fear, I'm choosing the suffering of consciousness as far as children in Gaza dying, like the story of suffering of consciousness. And I allowed that, like I ran to that, right? So I just couldn't surrender. I don't even, it's so hard. It's so hard to
That
like.
I'm just going to point real quick for you here. That is perfect because where is the distinction between fear and surrender? Is it different?
Well, I mean, I really felt like surrender was death. Like it felt like death, like form would cease, the story would end,
And what is
and
fear?
fear is it was almost like fear is the fuel that creates duality.
Yeah.
And so
Become that because there is no duality.
I know, but what I'm dealing with right now is the shame of will. It's like I almost feel like after that session, and I have like one monthly sessions with Chad right now, but for integration. But it's almost like the shame and the fear is overtaking I feel guilty to have gratitude now because I feel like every time I look at a tree, like I would look at it like wow, like life, like wow, you know what I mean, and just.
What's the difference between guilt and gratitude?
Well, I mean, gratitude is yeah, it's like I'm stuck. It's like there's this energy that's stuck now, and it got revealed through that. I thought like I had this really good practice gratitude, and and I'm always trying to feel, where do I feel it in my body. I'm always doing that moment, and like burning in the fear. I'm burning in the fear, and I'm also observing the story, but I don't know how to let go of it.
The agent, the person, the character can never let go. We can only become the experience, and it lets itself go. When you are presented with fear or doubt or guilt, it is the letting go. You just become that. There is no differentiation. There is no separation. Something is telling you that this is distinct from this. That's not so. Whatever is being presented is exactly where to go and what to become, no matter what quality that seems to arise.
Yeah.
It's
Because
tricking you into forcing a distinction between gratitude and guilt. There is no distinction. It is the same. Are you willing to explore that? Are you willing to
oh yeah, I
become
mean,
the guilt so completely that all that remains is a sense of gratitude? Because what's the difference?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like it totally threw me off. And I'm like in this space of like, I can't believe anything that comes from my mind anymore. I can't believe anything anybody said. Like, even being like, I told myself I'm going to go to this satsang and listen. Like, I can't read my books anymore, any of my spiritual, any of those, or listening to the videos anymore. And I'm like in this space of just, I don't know what to, after what I saw, like, I don't know what to believe. Like I'm in a space of non-belief. And anytime my
I
brain
think
tries to tell me these stories, I'm like, I can't even believe my own brain.
I think something is shifting, but your perception of it is that it your perception of it assumes a heightened sense of responsibility over making the choice that will instantly um, instantly catalyze surrender. And that's not how it works. Like, I think what's happening right now is that surrender, because your whole like setup is shifting. Like the structures inside your mind, the way of processing, that's being challenged, and it's unfolding, but it's a much slower and denser process than the way you're framing it. I think that is like this, I had this one moment of choice and I made the wrong choice, and now like I'm I kind of like have no second chance. It's like it's
No,
done for.
I don't think that there's no second chance. I feel like I just wasn't ready, and more needs to unfold before.
Readiness
Yes,
occurs on its own.
exactly.
Readiness is what becomes ready.
Hmm.
You cannot cultivate readiness. You can
Yeah.
only be with what is as it is. That's it, exactly as it is, as it is. But
Hmm.
when you find that, here's your metaphor. The entire universe is a giant, infinite lump of clay. And every once in a while, a chunk will come off and fashion itself into a coffee mug, and another chunk will come off and fashion itself into a fish. And in appearance, these two things seem to be contrasting. They seem to be maybe even opposing. But if we look carefully, fundamentally, we realize, holy shit, it's still clay. So if it looks like a coffee cup, you find the clay by becoming the coffee cup. If it looks like a fish, you find the clay by becoming the fish.
Yeah, it feels like death though. I can't explain.
It
Like I
is
can't.
death.
Yeah, it's
It
like my
is.
ego's cornered, but it just feels I
The
can't.
fear is death, by the way. You cannot make a wrong move. If you head north, south, east, or west, which direction outside of the universe?
We're in, it's the center of a sphere. There's no direction.
So how can you screw this up? How can you make a wrong move? It doesn't exist.
But suffering, like when I see a lion tearing apart a deer, it really, really bothers me. And I see suffering that happens in the world, it really, really bothers me. And somehow I feel like their consciousness is, in order to feel love, that has to be there. There cannot be love without that suffering. And I can't, like it's
Suffering
bothering. It's,
is love.
I know, and I'm not, and that's the thing is I don't know what to turn to because I'm not okay with it. I'm not
Whatever
okay with the
whatever
suffering.
presents itself is what you turn to. That's it. There's no choice.
Yeah, I know I'm having a problem with it. I don't like the suffering of animals. I don't like to see the suffering. It's like and I know that I'm only putting more energy into that, and I'm creating the energy. It's like, I'm creating that energy, but I'm just having a hard time like with.
I love it because this is going to wear itself out anyway. I mean, there's nothing you
Yeah.
can do about this. So
I know. That's the thing. It's like, who do you argue with?
no, like
The real lion eats
in
a
fact,
deer.
I'm going to encourage you to fight it as hard as is coming up because it's going to take you the same way.
Yeah.
Go ahead and embrace the fight.
I mean, what's gonna happen? What you're fighting is the end of the one that cares. Like, I think you're still, you want to care.
But how could you not care of like children who are watching their parents die in a war and they're like, we're so sheltered. Like I'm so sheltered from any of that. But the reality of it is there, and it's like it really, you know what I mean? The truth of
Well, can you allow yourself to care so much that it consumes you?
There you go. Good enough.
it does
I've been down that path many times. But don't pull back. Let yourself care. Let yourself care. Take yourself
Commitment.
to the limit, the extreme.
but I feel somehow it's like like my conscious, like I'm somehow I'm responsible for that. Like it's because of not me, Rania, the ego,
Yeah.
like me, like the I am, like I am responsible for that. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
if the I am is responsible, then it encapsulates everything anyway. I mean, it becomes irrelevant, right?
Yeah, that's where I am right now. That's
The I am
No, I
creates.
know
burning it,
exactly where you are.
burning
Like it's a very heavy place to be.
Hmm.
It's a very heavy place to be. And you know what? It's about control
it. Totally.
underneath the responsibility. It's about control. And the
Mhm.
place where you die is where you relinquish control.
I
Like,
know.
wow.
It's too there.
But
I actually cannot control that, and that sucks. Like that is
totally,
just
totally.
heartbreaking that I can't control that. It's more comfortable to feel guilt because it gives me a little bit of hope about
Well,
Right.
control.
it's a primary place of orientation. That guilt is your first wound. That guilt is your shame. And until that's confronted directly, it will continue to run all aspects of your existence.
I know I'm trying to. Chad threw in the nice little word of forgiveness there, and I've never, like in the middle of that 5 video session, I never felt the weight, the power, or the just forgiveness, just the light.
Wait. There's something good about that. I like that pointing. Forgive yourself for your helplessness in the suffering of things that
Mm,
you witness.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You
Anyway, sorry to end with this heavy.
No, it's good. I mean, I love this kind of this is beautiful. Thank you for bringing this. There's so much juice in this. And what I think Alma and I are both seeing, it just feels this way, is that you're still in a perfect spot. There's no problem here. It's going to work itself out. It is worked out. You just might not know that yet.
Yeah, I know everything is as it should be, like in a non-dual state, like when you really it's like it perfect, like it's perfection, and I know that, but I'm down here right now, and
I
it's
had
these moments of like it all fits as a perfect puzzle. How can it not? And then I have these like, and then I observe like all of this that's going on, and just
about a year ago, I had this really visceral meditation where it was very clear that I was some kind of savannah creature. It was becoming something else, and I was eating grass, and I could see this motion like out of like this really panoramic vision. It was really remarkable. I could almost see directly behind me, and all of a sudden there was motion, and it was just like moving, and it was like this really like pleasant, just bounding, just like moving through time and space, just like effortlessly. And then all of a sudden it felt like just a snag and a pull, and I'm on the ground, and there's this massive head with its mouth right here, and it's biting and it's choking and it's squeezing. And then in that experience, there was this sudden realization of, oh, I am the lion. And then there was letting go. You are the lion. I am that I am. But I love it. It's so juicy. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for coming and bringing that. I really, really appreciate you for that. Okay, I guess we're going to wrap it up. I'm so grateful for everyone being here. Thank you for everyone who kind of waited as we went a little over. I hope that's okay with everyone. Thank you so much. Alma, would you like to say anything?
I share the sentiment. Thank you to everyone for putting themselves out there.
Yeah, can we all give a good thank you to Alma for being here? It was really, really special for you to say yes. So thank you for that, Alma.
Totally. Thank you, Alma, for being here. Come back.
My
Yeah,
pleasure.
it's so, so pleasant to sit with you. Appreciate it. And all of you too. I mean, every little bit of what seems like variety, all these different colors of shares and everything is so valuable for this space. So thank you all for stepping into the heart space and kind of playing with that theme today. It was really nice. And all right. Guess I'll see everyone soon. Alma, everyone, have a good rest of your weekend. Bye.